I'm Shereen Bhan and we're coming to you from Davos 2020.
The World Economic Forum in its 50th year is putting the spotlight on conversations around sustainability, with climate change being at the heart of them. Network 18 has brought Mission Paani, a campaign to promote the conservation of water and to find solutions to address the global crisis of water.
Determining
The water crisis.
On the mission, Harpic.
When you see in the world an example of something that is working, you want to share that with the broader world. And that's the case with regard to Mission Paani, a really critical water mission in India at a very critical time. Here we are at the Goal 17 partner space talking about how partnerships like this can make a mark in the world and turn the tide in places where there are great challenges that face us.
You know, the call was given for the water crisis. We saw an immediate opportunity for us to make an impact. So we've actually partnered with Network 18 to come up with Mission Paani, which is a concept that's designed to do basically three things. One is to make people aware of the water crisis, to make them act, to make a better world, starting with India, and then also to impact, so to start doing work that actually creates a change on the ground.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what your role is in terms of conversations like this?
I take a lot of pride in our everyone forever approach. And the approach in itself underlines the partnerships one needs to have with the local communities, with the governments, and with the private players to ensure reliable access to safe drinking water and sanitation. So the way we work in any community is based on the premise that it is not an individual responsibility, it is a collective responsibility. So that's really at the programmatic level when we are going down, because eventually we are talking about influencing human lives. So, you know, that connect and that partnership is very, very important.
You tell us a little bit more about your relationship with the government and how you forged that over a period of many years.
When the government actually launched the Clean India campaign, which was a little more than 5 years back, then Tata Trust was among the first partners working with them, both at the level of the central ministry, at the level of the state governments, and quite often working with the smallest unit of administration, which is the district. And the whole value chain of sanitation was looked at. But in addition to that, even water, because it was realized that you could not just focus upon people building and using toilets. You had to make sure that in schools, for example, you had to teach them about washing hands, especially before a meal. You had to provide pure drinking water. And that's why something called the Tata Water Mission was actually launched about 5 years back. And I'm very happy to say that in about 12 of the 30-odd states in India and a little more than 4,000 villages, community drinking water installations have been put into place. Large behavior change campaigns, including all the elements I spoke about, and now including menstrual hygiene management, have been brought in. And that's really what has allowed Tata Trust to work with the government.
It seems that Harpic is a remarkable example of the role that leading brands globally can play in affecting behavior change.
It is to create a cleaner world. And I think a cleaner world definitely requires hygiene, it requires sanitation, and it requires access to water. Especially in a country like India, where sanitation, due to the habits and practices of people, is intrinsically linked to water. Harpic as a brand is totally all about providing clean and hygienic sanitation access to all, which again requires and necessitates water. Now, as a brand, we looked at this and said, what is our kind of right to play? And we actually looked at all the facts. And what was interesting from our point of view is not only is the purpose fitting in with the kind of Mission Paani approach that we've taken, but our product as well it actually goes towards saving water. So in India, majority of the urban toilets basically don't have a flush system. So you use the bucket to clean, clean the toilet. And the most often used product is basically detergents, which are supposed to be used for clothes, but they're used to clean the toilet because that's what people just have a habit of doing. And Harpic actually saves, because it's specifically made for the toilet, it saves significant amount of water compared to the detergent use. So from a vision point of view and from a product point of view, there was a fit. This is not just about Harpic, it's about making, like Prabhat was saying, every consumer in India conscious of the need to save water, conscious of the fact that water is a scarce commodity and it could really run out. What we're trying to do with Mission Paani, very honestly, Jim, is to basically say that this problem is not someone else's problem. It's not the government's problem. It is everyone's problem. The idea is to inform and educate. The whole idea is to really use every lever we can to drive that awareness, to make people conscious first of the need to save water. Then comes, okay, I want to save water, how do I do that? So we're going to hope to enable them with tools and tips and techniques on how to do that. Everyone's got to play their part, consumers, corporates, NGOs, everyone. And I think if everyone punches a little bit above their weight, which is what we're trying to do, that makes for a great solution.
Can you respond a little bit to the importance of the role of culture shaping in successful campaigns like Mission Paani?
I think that everyone should then look at what happened in Cape Town, was it 2 or 3 years ago, when they were threatened to run out of water, and by informing everyone, they brought the water use down to, I think, a quarter. And then even after it, when it was all safe after that, they stayed a lot lower. So there is a cultural aspect that's very important. Those changes, I think, is a combination of information and doing campaigns about that, and also introducing new technology.
Reckitt Benckiser has been partnering a lot with the Government of India on the mission that was envisaged in the last 5 years, which was the Clean India mission. Because as a cleaning company, a company who's fundamentally creating products for home and hygiene, what becomes integral for us is behavior change. Or how do you actually seed habits? And I think one of the things that we learned in India early is the fact that even though infrastructure exists, but unless you actually seed a habit, which typically takes a generation,
right?
Habits, the real change doesn't happen. So even though today, with a lot of good work that's gone behind building the infrastructure of toilets, the habit of keeping them clean and maintaining them is what is the critical link that is missing, and perhaps where makers of products like ours can play a big role.
Yeah.
And I think as we move forward, we're happy to now be working very closely with the government on their new mission, which is in the space of creating a massive awareness for water conservation and to actually provide pipe water for every Indian. So I think in that regard, having products that are water efficient, and then partnering with government to actually create behavior change in schools, through students, through popular culture, I think that's really where our opportunity lies, even for marketers, to reframe the jobs that they do and make a real difference.
While traditionally the trust, and the oldest one, has really been operating for 127 years, it works across all the SDGs. But in more recent times, the focus has been how do we multiply, how do we accelerate, how do we make a greater impact? And we think that this kind of an omni-win can really happen if you partner. So our whole focus is how do we get the right kind of partners on board? And this not only includes the community and includes other potential donors and people who can provide technology, but even the government, because the largest spender on social development programs in most countries, certainly in India, is the government of India. And if you can actually influence them in the way that they adopt innovation, they adopt technology, they start using data and analytics, the quality of the intervention and therefore the level of the impact goes up quite dramatically. And that's really something which we have been focusing upon in the last few years. And we are delighted that the government has actually picked up many of these large-scale projects that we have done in the area of health, in the area of smart cities, in the area of managing rural development, and now in some of the other areas like agriculture and water. And those are being tweaked and adapted for use in rolling it out across the whole country.
I'd love to hear from anybody on the panel or a group, a corporate, an entity that you think, based on the current OmniWin that you're doing, would be super helpful for you.
We found right now that in order to, there's sort of unlimited demand in Africa and Asia right now for solar home systems that are financed, but our barrier to scale is cash.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out who are the right people. Right now we're trying to make a model where commercial investors can come in and get commercial returns and buy AR. But that takes time and we have to prove out the model various ways. So if there's other people who are interested in social and environmental impact, which we can measure to the household level and aggregate, who would be willing to give patient capital and allow that scale to happen even faster than otherwise happen, that I think would be an OmniWin.
Private sector has the money, but even from the advertising, you can perhaps drive behavior change. But when it comes to actually proving a model in a community-led project, then joining hands ends up helping you double the resources.
Right.
And I think in that regard, it also helps get confidence because it's such a new space, even for the private sector. You do want to see how will you be able to drive a change. Even if you're trying to prove a model for government to take forward, it still requires investment upfront.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, for a large number of us, finding relevant match in terms of finding people who are equally passionate about the topic and would also like to make an investment. So impact investors, I think, is a very rich space for us.
To this Network 18 special, I'm Shereen Bhan, and we're coming to you from Davos 2020, and we're talking about the issue that is the hot topic of conversation here: sustainability, stakeholder capitalism, and what corporations can do to address both. With me, a power-packed panel. We're giving the suits a pass this time around. As they say, if you want something done, get the women in. So we've got the women in. Thanks very much for joining us. Patty, let me start by asking you, you've been looking at things at RB for so long now. And what are the changes that you've personally seen over the years that have made this a reality today?
Listen, I think that purpose is now part of the vernacular and the conversation that many companies, and we were, as a company, we were deeply entrenched in this issue long before it became popular. I think we really look at it for how do you create this market demand, and how do we make sure that our brands and our products are contributing not only through the very nature of how they perform, but also in a way in which we're driving hand-washing programs or cleaner households, and how we're really driving behavior change.
Is there a female perspective?
Women are absolutely the agents of change. I cannot sit here as women are definitely the lens through which we look at all of our social programs. And we particularly are looking at women's empowerment as a way in which is most effective to drive sustainable change.
Just to build on that, so SDG 6, water and sanitation, women and girls suffer the most.
Absolutely. They carry the weight quite literally.
They do, both the weight of water, but also the weight of finding, places to go to the toilet and having adequate sanitation. So we're absolutely passionate about solving that.
So give me anecdotes of, how things have changed and the manner in which you're communicating now.
So we've been practicing many different topics and different ways of communicating. So whether it be in the street, creating little plays to help people understand the impact that they can have or the way that they should empower themselves, or whether it's through mass communication of TV or through digital.
So much of the conversation is around using India as a template to see how change can be done at scale. Give me a sense of what you've been able to do.
I think, Shereen, we're extremely proud of the work that we've done in the last 5 years as part of the Clean India mission, where both Dettol and Harpic partnered with the government to actually create lasting behavior change, work at a community level across states with NGO partners as well as government to create proof of concept, to find popular culture, whether it's through street plays, through anthems, to help children of tomorrow, to learn new habits. Because exactly as we here in a lot of conversations, infrastructure alone cannot solve the problem. Sure. Habit change requires us to actually work much more closely with schools as enablers, with governments as enablers.
There are about 2.5 billion people across the world who do not have access to clean sanitation. And there are about 750 million people who do not have access to safe drinking water. And these amazing people are all working to solve that issue.
As all of us know, in the last 5 years, the government started a massive initiative towards building toilets and a massive Clean India mission where nearly 100 million new toilets got constructed. Despite the toilets being constructed, one of the big challenges we've seen is the habit of keeping the toilets clean is missing. And the second challenge that often when we visit the homes and we realize is that water is a key challenge because of which toilets are not getting used as much. We realized that for us to enable clean sanitation, water was a critical enabler. And in light of that, we actually launched Harpik Mission Paani together with Network 18 to bring about a change.
And what we see always is that it is youth that's asking for toilets to be put in homes, and it's youth that are demanding change in terms of these basic human rights that we want to enable. So when it comes to innovation, we want to make sure that when they acquire that amazing new thing within their home, that it's kept hygienically clean, that they really get the full benefit. And that means ensuring that, if they don't have water, how do we create waterless cleaning solutions? So it's about solving daily problems to create brands with trust that help them to solve the problem of their home, their family, their community, but also how they help to impact on the greater world.
When it comes to young people, we here at Davos have been seeing that in the last few days how teenagers have taken to the streets in Sweden, in Switzerland, to actually combat issues of climate change, to combat issues of clean water, access to water. And you really start to realize the power of youth and how when young people come together and mobilize and work towards a common cause, the kind of impact that we have.
If we really can make and try to make more holistic understanding of how the water crisis is exactly affecting, and if it goes to the grassroots and we can get more voices from there to actually amplify the voices from the grassroots and be in the decision making process, I think that's exactly the change that we need today when we talk about clean water and sanitation, because they are the marginalized are the most that gets affected.
Young entrepreneur in Bangalore called Garvita. She has an organization called Why Waste, and we are supporting her as part of the Global Shaper Bangalore community on a project to raise awareness around water conservation. And how we're doing that is very simple. Every time you walk into a restaurant, there's a glass in front of you and there's water served. We're enlightening the waiters there to serve water up to not the brim, but half, making the glass half full. So that way, that's another way to kind of start by working from your dinner table all the way to kind of promoting rainwater harvesting, groundwater replenishing, or even looking at how you could treat your water.
A lot of entrepreneurs, especially young people, are trying to use tech and leverage tech for good. And you see it in Flint, Michigan, for example, in the United States, where they haven't had access to clean water in 5 years. And the young people are really the ones that are taking the lead and taking charge to be innovative and resourceful around how to get access to clean water for their communities.
I think, first of all, extremely inspiring. I think it's inspiring even for us to hear all the work that you're doing beyond your day jobs. It's super inspiring. With Harpik Mission Paani, I think there are 3 clear goals that we've set out. First of all is the big goal around building awareness and raising the consciousness. The truth is, it's only when we start measuring water do we start saving water. The fact of the matter is, even today, water is for free. We don't value it enough, we don't respect it enough. And as a result, we still don't conserve it. So awareness building and raising the consciousness around the issue is our priority number 1. Number 2 is to actually bring to light all the amazing work that is happening across the country and give it a voice. You're all water warriors in your own capacity. Yeah. So it's amazing that we can actually lend a voice and make the causes popular. And the third, and I think the most important one that we are keen to be able to drive, and for that reason, it's a privilege to be here at Davos, connecting the dots with global leaders to see if we can actually create and work with impact funds to actually be able to raise money that can be diverted towards behavior change, as well as towards pilot projects that can test new ideas that allow us to reuse our water. And I think that's really the vision that we have with this project. Can we take charge as public-private partnership? Take charge, come forward, not expect answers to be coming from elsewhere, but move forward and give at least our weight to the project.
Climate change is real.
11 of our 20 big cities have completely scarce for water.
We've got to look at ways of preserving the resources that we have.
Please conserve water, use water like it's gold.
Mission Paani is something that is absolutely the need of the hour from India's perspective.
Congratulations on this great initiative.
What is more important than conserving water and making sure that future generations have good, clean water to drink?
I support Mission Paani.
At SpiceJet, we'd love to collaborate with CNBC and TV18 and all the wonderful work that you're doing.